Today, I want to talk about some lesser known symptoms of lipedema, ones that I didn't know about, and ones that I also didn't put as much weight behind as being a very definite symptom and sign that, yes, I have lipedema. So these are just ones that you can add to your list to take to your doctor to try and get a diagnosis. If you need a checklist, there is a free checklist in the description box of every video I do. You can print that off and take it with you to the doctor to help explain to them this thing called lipedema. The first one you may have heard of, but don't understand just how specific it is to lipedema, and that's the grain of rice texture under the skin. When lipedema fat forms, the reason it becomes painful is because connective tissue, collagen, wraps around the lipedema fat and encases it, and it becomes fibrotic and hardened and sharp, which is why it hurts when we touch things that we shouldn't, or we bang into something, or somebody pinches us, or we have our blood pressure taken, all of those things. When that happens, it forms a little lump. That's why we can't diet and exercise it away, right? It's this little lump that's encased in its own little jail that we can't reach. I had a really good experience when I had my arms done. My surgeon, on my request, took video and photos of the inside of my arms, and it was really, really clear. There was lumps of lipedema fat, so there was lots of balls inside my arm, along with, you could see underneath it, like she also showed the lymphatic net as she pulled it up. That it was insanely good to watch. You could also see the flat fat, the soft, fluffy fat that is normal fat that everybody else doesn't have lipedema has. Reach down and touch your legs. Do a firm kind of, don't bruise yourself, do a firm stroke and feel under your skin. The legs is probably the easiest place. It may be the size of a grain of rice. It may be the size of peas. It may be bigger than that. It may be walnut size if you're in stage 3 lipedema, for example. That is just another sign that you have lumps of fat that are lipedema fat, that you're not going to be able to exercise and diet away no matter what you do. Okay, just a reminder, yes, I had weight loss surgery, but all that did for me was help me lose all the other fat that was not lipedema fat. And what I've got left is the lipedema nodules that you cannot get rid of until you have surgery like I've done on my arms. So grain of rice texture. Do you have grain of rice or do you have grain of peas? Let me know below. The next one, I didn't even realize I had until I went looking, and then I checked my heels, and sure enough, I have it too. They are called, and I'm going to have to read this, pesogenic papules, and they're heel bumps. They're little bumps on your heels that just, I don't know, look like balls also under the skin. These are often missed during examinations and diagnosis. And what they are showing us is just another weakness in our connective tissue. It is balls of fat pushing through the dermis into the subcutaneous tissues around your heels. And because we've often got more weight than usual, we're pushing down on the heels, and so it's pushing out into that area. Even though lipedema fat isn't meant to go down past the ankles, which is why we have the cuffing around the ankles, it's still a sign of connective tissue issues in general in our body. So it's another subtle clue that we don't often look at or think of because we're so concerned with everything else, right? That's more important. The pain, the inflammation, the puffy legs, the cuffing, that kind of thing. But this is just another signal that our connective tissue is not doing what it's meant to do. Systemic brain fog. I think most of us experience brain fog throughout our life. I know I do, but I often put it down to thyroid disease. I have Hashimoto's as well, and that's very much brain fog territory. However, it's not the thyroid, it's not the lipedema, it is the low-grade inflammation that just keeps on going. That can cross the blood-brain barrier and give our brain a kind of inflammation And it just makes it really hard to think, to decide, to figure out what we want in life, just even what we're supposed to do each day. Brain fog is such a pain in the butt, right? Because you want to get on with life. You have to get on with life. You have to do all the things. But if you're having brain fog days, it is a clue to you that your inflammation is ongoing. And that's kind of the biggest thing we have to work on. No matter what our symptoms are, no matter how much we think we have to do the compressions and all the other things, if we are not working on inflammation, we're never going to get anywhere. This is like the biggest key to lipedema health and wellness in general. Our brain health, our body health, our motivation, our focus. We have to lower inflammation. And unfortunately, we live in a world where everything, even sitting, contributes to inflammation. So this is something that we have to, first and foremost, the minute we recognize a symptom that wasn't there yesterday, because brain fog can come and go, because we eat badly one day, we eat well the next day, we might use a product on our skin or our body that is not good for us, but we only use it once every few weeks, like some kind of face mask or hair thing or whatever. And then we have this brain fog the next day and we just put it down to, oh, it's a lipedema day, or, oh, it's a thyroid day, or whatever else you have going on, when in actual fact, it's the inflammation crossing the blood-brain barrier into our brain and making everything foggy and murky until it sort of deals with that product or issue that's caused that spike in inflammation. So this increase in inflammatory markers called cytokines that is running around the body can change in amounts. And that's why brain fog can come and go, and we can have good days and bad days. It's the same why pain, we can have pain one day, not pain the next day. It will all come down to, have you been really good for a couple of days and then you went, oh, stuff it, I'm having carbs. Then you had carbs, then you've got inflammation. Sometimes we just don't connect the dots because we're not paying attention, or we're not looking at something like brain fog as being a telltale sign for what's going on. That's why I've always kept diaries. I keep diaries of my symptoms every day. I keep diaries of what I eat every day. And when I ask clients for their food diaries or to take a diary, they think I'm looking at how perfect that they've been and that kind of thing. And that's couldn't be far from the truth. I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for, oh, look at that. She ate nuts for a few days and then she had severe pain. Because things like nuts, seeds, healthy seeming things, especially if you're on keto, dairy, for the most part, you think, oh, no, I'm eating healthy, so it's got to be fine. It's not the food. But what triggers you and what triggers me from food will be completely different things. Healthy or not healthy, it does not matter. We can't put labels on these foods. I might be able to eat, I don't know, chocolate, like pure dairy chocolate. I might be able to eat that, no problems, with no changes in, and I can, just to be clear, I don't, but I can, with no changes in pain levels, weight, inflammations. Like, I can eat dairy milk chocolate, which is fine. I can't have dairy. If I have too much cheese and milk and that sort of thing, then I feel it. I get all clogged up. I get pain. My knees are my biggest telltale sign of inflammation for me. Now, nothing else kind of changes for me except emotions. Emotions can also be a telltale sign. Knowing what foods work for you aren't necessarily healthy or not healthy. It's just what foods work for you, and they'll be different to the foods that work for me. So I highly recommend keeping a diary of symptoms, happiness levels, because your mental and emotional health is very much dictated by what food you eat. I've tested that time and time again. Keep this diary and just keep it. You've got lipedema for life. How well you manage it could be dictated by just simply keeping a diary on you, the most important person in the world. The next one also has a name that I can't pronounce, so I'm going to read it. And it is Genu Valgum. If you've got it, you'll know what it is already, and it is flat feet and knock knees. This is something I've never heard of in lipedema, but it is a symptom that comes along with lipedema. So in case you don't know, knock knees is when the knees sort of go in towards each other and often knock against each other when you walk. Flat feet is when the arches have flattened and your feet you don't have. So if you put a footprint in the sand or you have a wet foot and you put it on the towel, there's no space where the arch should normally be. It's a flat footprint. Now, the flat feet will come about with age anyway if you don't wear proper footwear that encourages the retention of that arch. Even when I wear thongs, I wear Archies, which is an Australian brand. It's developed by a physiotherapist, I'm going to say, not a podiatrist, a physiotherapist. It encourages you to still have an arch in your even flat thongs. They're a game changer. I could never wear thongs when we're traveling, going to Bali, here in Thailand, all day when it was the old, I used to wear Havianas. They were my thong of choice. And for my American people, we're not talking underwear. Thongs are flip-flops. Sorry, my mistake. So when I started wearing Archies, the flip-flops that had the arch support in them, I could wear them all day. I could walk 20,000 steps all over Bali with the pavement that goes up and down, no problems. And I actually, knowing that I was going to film this today, I looked at my footprint on the towel when I got out of the shower this morning, and I have got the space of where the arch stays where it normally is. So if you're aging and you don't have flat feet anyway, I highly encourage you to wear orthotic type footwear. They don't have to be ugly, right? Archies are not ugly, but they will stop your feet from flattening normally as we age anyway. Back to the lipedema, flat feet and knock knees. So the knock knees in lipedema is caused by the fat pads, sort of kind of pushing your knees towards one another. And I've noticed, definitely for me, my gait, so how you walk. I know this because I have done lots of filming, B-roll and shorts and things like that where I can see my shadow on the ground when I walk. And how I walk is completely different now that I've lost weight because the fat pads are lessened. They're not pushing in on one another anymore. I've even got a thigh gap. Go figure. Never thought in a million years that would happen. So with lipedema, the fat pads contribute to the knock knees. So you may not necessarily have traditional knock knees, but you will have a knock knee that is caused by the lipedema pushing the knees together when you walk. So this leads to knee pain, which is often misdiagnosed as osteoarthritis and that sort of thing. It can contribute to potentially needing knee replacements. I had a double knee replacement in 2020 because it's pressure. It's hard work on your knees, supporting that amount of weight that I was supporting 130 kilos. I'll put up on the screen how many pounds that is. I was walking every day, which was contributing to that load, making my knees sorer and sorer and sorer. And it did actually wear away at my knees to the point that I needed the double knee replacement. Lipedema with hypermobility and loose ligaments, that's the hypermobility section. It causes loose ligaments. The ligaments in our body aren't strong enough to keep things where they should be. And that's the arches, right? So the ligaments that keep your arches high, they flatten. They're just not strong enough to keep everything in our body where it's supposed to be. Finally, let's look at one called POTS. Now, I think that this is one that if you've got it, you know you've got it. And it stands for, I'm reading again, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, also called dysautonomia. If you've got POTS, you will often know about it. It will have been diagnosed in you, but some people are not aware that it is actually connected to lipedema. This is because, again, is the lax or not strong connective tissue. POTS is when you get lightheaded when you stand up. Often people can say this is postural hypertension, which happens a lot. You know, you get up too quickly and you feel a bit dizzy and you have to give yourself a second. But this is a chronic condition that happens all the time. So because of the lax vessels or the loose vessels that just aren't strong enough, our blood pools down in our legs, which is why we want to put our legs on the walls as much as possible to have the blood flow back down. And this is also where venous return is often an issue with people, because we just don't have the strength in our vessels and our heart to push it back up, which is what we need. So when we get up, because the blood is all pooled down in our legs somewhere, there is a low blood flow to the brain, which causes us to be dizzy when we get up really quickly. Now, this causes extra swelling in the legs, and it's kind of this vicious cycle. So if you have POTS, or you suspect you have POTS after hearing this, then I guess one of the biggest things you can look at for yourself is the legs up the wall every single day. You cannot consider this just, oh, that might help. This is something you have to do as many times a day as you can for 5 minutes to make sure that blood is coming back up into the rest of your body. So that will help you with swelling, with dizziness, with inflammation, with venous return, with your blood just being where it's meant to be, because we need the blood circulating through the body for so many other reasons, not just for lipedema. So it's a really important exercise that you may want to do. If you think you've got POTS, you may want to go see your doctor and have it investigated further. But this is another symptom of lipedema, and it's one that is not necessarily always connected. That is 5 more unusual symptoms of lipedema beside the obvious weight, the cuffing, the bruising that most people experience, and of course the weight that you can't get rid of. If any of these speak to you, I may have the grain of rice symptom and the brain fog if I know I've eaten things that I shouldn't. And now I know I have the heel bumps, which I didn't know before I started doing this. So it all adds up to, oh, this is the picture of what I'm dealing with lipedema. And every symptom is a reminder we have to work on inflammation. We have to strengthen our capillaries. We have to work on connective tissue in our body. That's the way I like to look at symptoms. I don't like to look at them as, oh, I'm a bad person. Look at that symptom I couldn't control. I like to look at them as, oh, my body is telling me something here. What is it telling me? It's telling me I'm inflamed today. It's telling me I had too much sugar yesterday. It's telling me that I'm not doing enough work around my capillaries, strengthening them, and my connective tissue. That's the way I like to look at it, because it kind of separates me, the person, as I did a bad thing or I'm not doing a good enough job of looking after this one body I have, to, oh, okay, this is my job. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I've got to work on now. What can I learn about this? That's the way I like to look at my body. And I highly encourage you to, because it will help you step aside from the emotional aspect, which you know I love talking about, but the emotional aspect of what's stopping you from helping yourself to feel better, whatever that means for you. That could just mean walking to the letterbox and back without feeling pain. It could just mean walking upstairs without feeling pain. Whatever it means for you, set aside your emotions for a minute. I know that's not usual for me to say, but set aside those and look at your actual symptoms from a CEO perspective, from a business person's perspective. What are you dealing with? Right. What do they have in common? Okay. That's what I do in the deep dive. So hit me up if you think you want help doing that, and like and subscribe. It's free, and you can buy me a coffee in the link in the description below.